Have you ever wanted to play a Pokemon game with zero limitations? I'm talking about you can go wherever you want before you even get your first gym badge. Well, now's your chance with Pokemon Big Blue. Pokemon Big Blue is a ROM hack that allows the players to have a true open world experience through the region of Kanto. And when I'm talking open world, I'm not talking about Scarlet and Violet themed. I'm talking about every gym, every Pokemon, every trainer scales to your level. In this video, we're going to be talking about the game setup. We're going to be talking about the Revamped Kanto map. We're going to be talking about the Pokemon, and we're going to be talking about all the awesome gimmicks that this game has to offer. So let's get into what is Pokemon Big Blue. And special shout out to the questers of Quoorn's Quest who participate in my weekly live streams where I review games live as well as watch all this awesome content. If you want to check out this content and be notified when I go live weekly, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification. So let's talk about the game setup of Pokemon Big Blue. So Pokemon Big Blue is a ROM hack of Pokemon Fire Red, which means you are going to need a Game Boy emulator as well as the ROM, and if you need assistance with any of that, please join the Discord linked below, I can help you out. So once you boot up the game, you're going to be able to pick not only your starting town, but choose between 42 unique starter Pokemon. Gone are the days of choosing your classic water, grass, or fire type. In Pokemon Big Blue, you can choose a ghost type, you can choose a ground type, you can choose a steel type, I think. I don't know. You have 42 different unique options of Pokemon from generations 1 through 3 that you can choose. And of course, you can choose the classic starter Pokemon from each of those generations if you so choose. But the really cool thing is that you can start in any town you want. So once you pick your starter, you can also then choose the town you want to begin your journey in. And this is where things get a little confusing. There is no story to Pokemon Big Blue aside from defeating all the gyms and catching all the Pokemon. So that's kind of where you definitely need to check your PC box because there is no Professor Oak to kind of guide you through the opening of this game. You literally are just dropped in the middle of a town and you start your adventure with your Pokemon. So check your PC for those free Pokeballs. That'll definitely help start your journey off on the right foot. And so now that we talked about the initial game setup, let's talk about the revamped map of Pokemon Big Blue. So as I mentioned, Pokemon Big Blue is a ROM hack of Pokemon Fire Red, which means you are running around the world of Kanto. But as I also mentioned, this is a true open world game and there's no story, which means there's no checkpoints to earn HMs, there's no need for HMs, and so what you can do is run throughout the entire region. They did a really good job revamping this map to have these new routes that connect areas that you might have needed some kind of HM or some kind of additional story support to get you through there. You don't have to worry about any sort of big obstacles because you can easily navigate around them. The really cool thing too is that there are certain areas like Blaine's Gym you can only access once you get Surf. But in Pokemon Big Blue, to alleviate that, you can actually talk to this guy with an Abra and he will teleport you to that island. That way you can come and go from Blaine's Island as you see fit. So not only is the world more accessible, the world is redesigned. This version of Kanto has a revamped design across the board. It uses the art style of Generation 4, so it kind of feels a little bit like a DS game, but as you go through this world of Kanto, you'll notice some things are a little bit different. You'll notice that around Brock's gym, there is a desert. You'll notice that there are new caverns, new pathways to explore that connect towns, unlike in their original game. And that's really, really cool because it just gives the players a lot more exploration with these games. Because we all know Kanto. Kanto is not something new. It has been used over and over and over in fan games and official Pokemon games alike. So it's really cool that Pokemon Big Blue took that entire world and said, how can we make this unique to our game? Not only from a operational standpoint, but from a new exploration standpoint, giving players some more fun things to explore and experience, and I think they did a fantastic job. So now that we talked about the world design, let's talk about how the Pokemon fit into the world of Pokemon Big Blue. Pokemon Big Blue is an open world game where no matter what gym you start at, that is the indicator for the level scaling of everything else in the game. So you can start at any gym and then the Pokemon will gradually grow as you complete more gyms. But the Pokemon within the world of this Kanto are really interesting because they use Pokemon from generations 1 through 3, and you can find all those Pokemon out in the wild. And when I mean all Pokemon, I literally mean you can find all Pokemon in the wild. Because with those new redesigned map areas, they have little locations where you can find legendary Pokemon that also level scale. So if you happen to find a Lugia at level 10, if luck is on your side, you can add a Lugia to your party. And then as you progress through the game, you can find lots of other little hidden areas that will have meaningful legendary Pokemon attached to them. So if you find in Pallet Town, there's a little alcove that has Latios, because as we know, Ash had a strong connection to Latios in one of the movies. And as I mentioned, all Pokemon from generations 1 through 3 can be found in this game. That includes new evolutions from either generation 4 and beyond. So that's the really cool thing as well, is that you can actually evolve all of those Pokemon that maybe got evolutions all the way in generation 9, which is really cool that they added that in, and they look really good added in. So that's also a really cool thing about this game, is that with the ability to like catch every Pokemon and use every Pokemon, you can find every Pokemon, because evolution items work the exact same way as stones. There's no need for trade evolutions. There's no need for like having to do any sort of weird mechanic unless it's a move. But even then, there are some Pokemon like Weirdeer that just require an evolutionary item instead of having to use the traditional method of the agility mode with Cybash like 20 times or whatever that was. So Pokemon Big Blue did a really good job of bringing in all the different Pokemon that we know and love from generations 1 through 3, plus their new evolutions. And another really cool thing is that they added 2 really big gimmicks that I think people are big fans of. They added Mega Evolutions and they added Gigantamax forms. However, there is a little bit of a caveat with it, because those forms are permanent in Pokemon Big Blue. If you Mega Evolve a Blaziken, for example, it will stay a Mega Evolved Blaziken for the remainder of the game. The same thing goes for Gigantamax Pokemon. If you have a Gigantamax Lapras, you will keep that Gigantamax Lapras the entire game, which is kind of cool because now you have a very amped up Pokemon, but at the same time, you know, it can be a little bit sad when, oh, your Lapras now will never revert to what it once was. It's now permanently this big spectacle Pokemon. But for the most part, it was pretty fun to have these permanent evolutions and these permanent forms, because again, they're just really powerful and they were just fun to use. And then speaking of those fun little gimmicks, let's get into all the little gimmicks of Pokemon Big Blue. To start off with, one of the gimmicks that I've already kind of talked about throughout this video is the idea that everything level scales based on the number of gym badges you have, which again, we've wanted this in traditional Pokemon games for a very long time. The most we've gotten so far is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where you can technically visit any gym in any order, but the Pokemon and the gyms around that area are definitely set to a certain level. So if you happen to make your way to the top of a mountain in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, you're facing some tough Pokemon if you happen to go there right away. But in Pokemon Big Blue, no matter where you start, those gyms, those Pokemon scale to your level, which is really cool, and made me wonder if the Elite Four also did that. I don't know, someone in the comments let me know if they've tried that. I've been so ingrained with traditional Pokemon games that I even kept that story point of don't go to the Elite Four until you collect all the badges. But who knows, maybe you can go to the Elite Four immediately. But again, what's cool about that, it allows players a really authentic, more natural, kind of like what we've seen in the anime way to experience the games, because you can just travel through the world. You have to actually map out where you want to go next, and that was really cool. In my playthrough, I started with a ghost type Pokemon, so of course the first gym I went to was Sabrina, and then from there, with the Pokemon I caught along the way, I then mapped out of the next logical place to go would be Brock's gym, and then from there I just kind of kept navigating my way through this hodgepodge like version of Kanto, and that was really cool because you got to craft your own story. Even though there was no overarching story, it was really fun to be able to actually like forge your own path, go wherever you want, truly explore the region as if you were a real Pokemon trainer. Another great gimmick that I found in the game is that notable characters from the Pokemon games will give you fun side quests. So you can find Professor Oak, where he can give you a Mega Stone for Mega Charizard so that you can get one of the 2 Charizard evolutions. You can find Professor Birch, who will give you a Mega Stone to use just for showing him a Mudkip. You can also find people like Archie, who will tell you where to find certain legendary Pokemon. So if you show Archie a Kyogre that you can catch in the game, he will give you some reward. And there are also other characters such as Professor Elm that give you an item to evolve a Johto Pokemon into its Hisuian form, which I think is really cool, and it's a nice way to tie in all these other characters and make the world feel very alive. Again, I can't reiterate this enough, there is no story in the game, so it's really cool that these little sub-characters can kind of come in and form a plot for the player. That way it's like, oh, you might be traveling through the region. Did you happen to catch a Kyogre? I'll give you something if you show me the Kyogre. Or did you happen to find this Pokemon? Why not show me and I'll give you an awesome evolutionary item. And speaking of legendary Pokemon, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you can find all generation 1 through 3 legendary Pokemon. This also includes mythical Pokemon. I did find a Registeel down in the Diglett Cave, which was really cool, as well as finding Mewtwo, Lugia, and all these other really awesome Pokemon. They're hard to catch. No matter the level they're at, they are still the catch rate of a traditional legendary Pokemon. So with a lot of them, I did just kind of save it, or I used them as EXP fodder and just kind of took them down just so that I could power up my team, because if you can't catch the legendary Pokemon, you might as well gain some experience from it. And speaking of gaining experience, this game does give the player the EXP share that activates for the entire party, which is really nice because when the Pokemon are level scaling throughout your journey, this game gives you the biggest opportunity to just keep switching up your team, to keep trying out new Pokemon, adapting to the gyms that you want to go fight. So it's really nice that you can have this just kind of broad EXP share that gives everyone a little EXP no matter the area. That way, if you're catching a new Pokemon that might be a little bit under leveled, they can easily gain level again because they'll be getting EXP from every battle even if they don't participate. And another awesome gimmick plus a little bit of quality of life is there are no HMs in Pokemon Big Blue. So there are those kind of HM moves and things like that, but you don't have to worry about needing specific HMs or having Pokemon learn HMs to navigate the world, because again, it is an open world concept. Any route that may have needed cut or surf or strength, they have just added in a new bypass so that you can just run along that route, battle some trainers, find some Pokemon, and really just enjoy Kanto fully open to the player's own imagination. Overall, I would say Pokemon Big Blue is a really fun game for the casual Pokemon player. If you really just like battling and kind of running around catching Pokemon, you don't want to sit through all those different cutscenes, you don't want to sit through having to do all the little side missions just to get to the next gym, this game is definitely for you. As a player that does enjoy the stories of Pokemon, I was a little sad that there was no overarching story because at times it did make the game feel a little bit bland. That's the one downside. Because there is no big overall story, there's nothing to really invest you besides collecting all the gym badges, taking down the Elite Four, and then finishing the game. Again, overall, Pokemon Big Blue was a fantastic game to play. It was incredibly fun. It was a great casual game to be playing in the background while I make other content, or if I just kind of wanted some time to relax. Again, if you're really into battling, if you're really into collecting Pokemon, this is definitely the game for you because, again, they level scale, you can really alter those teams, and you don't have to worry about getting hung up on all these Team Rocket lore stories and having to fight these big bad people just to get to the next gym. Thank you so much for watching this game review of Pokemon Big Blue. If you like this content, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you know not only when a new video is launched, but when I go live. I do host weekly live streams where I review fan games live in the chat for everyone to see. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that bell notification and subscribe so you know when I'm doing that next. As well as thank you to the member questers for your monthly donations. I do appreciate it. If you want some fun behind the scenes content, members only Discord, and other things like that, please consider becoming a member for as low as 99 cents a month. Thank you all for watching this video about Pokemon Big Blue. I had a blast playing this game. Please let me know in the comments down below what games you might want to see me play either on stream or in my next behind the scenes game review. If you really enjoyed this content, let me know down below. And until next time, happy questing, y'all.